I got a question about your math, Luis. Um, you said 50%. You said 10 was the number you started with. 50% are taken. 50% are going to say no. And
If
two,
you approach 10 women and half of them say no, and the other 50% are taken, and the other two,
there's nobody
whatever the
left.
difference.
I'm just messing with you. It's a joke. It's a math joke.
I'm like, what the hell?
I understood what you were
But
saying.
let me just say this. I would have to agree with Miss Polly. I do think that, and research suggests this as well. Social media has put a damper in relationships, because even though we know, if you think about it, you don't really have access to these people in their head somewhere psychologically. They feel like they do. Maybe it's, oh, she responded, or for her it's like, oh, he liked me, and they just take it, and they paint a picture, and they feel like, oh, well, I can, maybe I can. And you always looking for something better, because it's better than the person who was in love with you. You know what I'm saying? Instead of giving that same energy to the person who's right there beside you. Does that make sense? I do think that, and you're always like, oh, I'll just have her hanging on as a placeholder, because one of these girls one day, next thing you know, 10 years later, none of them girls that you thought was gonna come back never did. And so, okay, yeah, I mean, she's still here. Might as well marry. She hung it out. You stuck it out.
Wait, I was to just add on to that, because that's what you know how they all there's this thing they say that, like, women who get to a certain age, they start hitting the quote unquote wall or whatever, and they start digging back in them high school years, looking for them guys on Facebook talking about, hey baby, remember I thought you was cute. They going backwards, and that does happen. So I mean, it can happen.
I see you alone, and I'm alone too. Let's be alone together.
HD, you
But
okay,
y'all,
bro?
this is true though. Like, we this is the part, the horrible part about being on a panel full of married men, because they just got their wives. They're like, oh, I got these issues. But this is really how dating with social media is. Nobody wants to commit, because the grass is always greener on the other side. I mean, think about it.
That's
We got
not
men,
true.
huh?
That's not true. The grass isn't green on the other
Oh, I
side. The
agree.
grass, the
Because if
grass is green on the side in which you water and you nurture it. It's not.
absolutely, Louise, I agree with that. It's even to the point where it's like, oh, I can get better in another country. You gonna and I'm not knocking it. If that's what you want to do, and you want to go wherever, go. So this is not me making a joke, but I'm just saying, it even got to the point where it's like, oh, I'm about to go over there and get me, a baddie, and it's a chick right beside you. She love your dirty drawers. Matter of fact, she washing your dirty drawers right now while you on the internet trying to get with a chick you don't even speak the language. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, the grass is, we live in we live in a world where the grass is greener on the other side at this point. Everybody feels like, oh, I can do better. I can do better.
Yeah.
I can keep my money up.
So
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna bring in better. I can
But
go younger.
Go ahead, Luis.
I want to say this, and then I want to throw it to the other guys, and I'm gonna just mute up. I think we need to take a step back a little bit further and evaluate this from a different perspective. I think that a lot of people don't want relationships because they've never practiced relationships in monogamy to begin with. Stop and think about it for a second. If you grew up in a household where there wasn't an established two parent dynamic, what is that then that what is that does that dynamic look like, and how do you see that? You get into high school and you date one guy, and then you date another guy, or you date this girl and you date that girl. You're just bouncing about. Do the same thing through college. You get through college, you do the same thing when you get out here, and on both sides. So you've been practicing non-monogamy for 8 to 10 years. Situationship here, friendship, friends with benefits here. You know what I'm saying? Short-term relationship here, but no 2, 3, 4, 5 year stronghold relationship. A lot of people are not practicing long-term stronghold relationships. So once they get into their late 20s and early 30s, what kind of reference point are they going to pull from? You've been practicing non-monogamy your entire life, and yet we're expecting these people to want marriage or buy into this idea of marriage minded when they have never even practiced that. Imagine me have never ran in my life, never lifted, never did any kind of training, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to win the 400 in the next Olympics. Never ran, never trained in my life, never practiced. But as soon as that race comes, I feel like I'm going to win over everybody who's been trying to qualify themselves their entire life. That is the delusional level at where things are at, realistically. If we're going to take a step back, we need to look at what are people practicing. And if you're practicing this for a long period of time and you're trying to sell this idea that, oh, I could be ready whenever, and it's just a switch, you're lying to yourself. We are much simpler people than people try to give us credit for. We are creatures of habit. And sort of once you get into a long-term habit, you have to do the things and the work to unbreak that kind of habit and get into a different routine. I don't see a lot of people doing that. And sort of why are we surprised that they're getting the results that they're getting?
I agree. Everything that you had to say.
I mean, I think that, like you said, for some people, even that, I get your point of the non-monogamy and people being able to switch between the two easily. But there's people who are non-monogamous and they still would stay with each other for long periods of time. Also, I think it's more of the fact that everyone just believes they're not. How about this? They're just not sure with themselves on what they want. And it's always the idea that they could find something better or do better consistently, always. And when you doubt yourself and doubt your own choices, how can you make good choices for yourself and other people? You're like, oh, I don't know. I could be with this person, but maybe I'm not sure. But look, he's over here. Maybe I could do that.
And that little bit of I'm not sure is stopping you from committing.
Yeah,
and it'll be a little bit of I'm not sure. And it's like,
but Polly,
I don't like the way his feet smell in the night. And then I don't know if I can do that for 10 years. Like, come on, man. Like, just marry that man. Stop playing.
It's time. It's time. People are not investing the time, right, to getting to know people, to have conversations. I keep saying this every single weekend and every week. People are not having honest conversations. People are not having honest conversations about their likes, their interests. People are much more picky about the places that they go and eat and the food that they elect to choose off the menu than they are about the people that they elect to sleep with and procreate with.
Yes.
That's where we are at this moment. And sort of I had a conversation earlier today where a woman said, this was on Clubhouse, and a woman said, but I don't feel comfortable with telling him. I'm like, so why the hell do you feel comfortable with fucking him, but you can't feel comfortable with telling them about the most deepest, intimate, uncomfortabilities or insecurities about you at that moment?
Backwards. That's some backwards stuff. It's backwards. It's crazy. Miss Polly, you at work? Marcus, let me get you in. I saw somebody bring in the terminal, like the what the?
I hope you got headphones on.
Real fast, and I want to add something, Marcus. You can go, okay? I also want to say that I think that people don't want the responsibility, the commitment to say, I want to be responsible for you. You are responsible for me. Nobody wants the responsibility.